Hey everyone, I'm Coach Wolverine.
I'm Coach Colonna.
And this is another conversation over drinks. And today we want to talk to you guys kind of about like the importance of camaraderie, especially amongst men. The brotherhood and organized sports is a fascinating way. Coach Colonna and I did this really neat thing a couple weeks ago. Our buddy put on a mock strongman meet, like just last minute, and it was a really good time. And that was completely out of your norm, eh?
Totally, yeah, like not in, and that was exciting for me, right? To get into this world that like kind of everyone else has kind of been in there and just see how what I do stacked up. So I had a nice little competitive aspect involved too, which was really good.
And then even with all those movements, basically like, because you don't do the strength movement, how did you feel that having the brotherhood around you to amp you up? Like, how did that fuel into you?
Yeah, huge, right? Like, I mean, I set a personal best for my deadlift and other things like that, and like, I would have never even tried it probably with the injury history and stuff that's going on. We got through it fine, everything worked great, and just tons of energy. So like, there's nothing bad to say about anything like that. And I've even done some retooling of my programs to build a little bit more in, just in case it is an annual thing.
I found it interesting because like I haven't been in organized sports for a very long time. And so like as you and I were talking, like I just joined volleyball again. I haven't played volleyball in years, but it was a sport that I really loved. And it was actually doing the strongman thing with our buddy kind of like reignited that for me. Because it's like, man, it's really cool to get out with a group of people in that situation, the group of the boys, and just have fun for an afternoon.
And have a common goal, right?
Yeah.
I play a lot of sports, right? Like I probably play 50, 60 hockey games a winter. Was on a softball team for the first time this summer and things like that. And when I don't have those things going on, it genuinely feels like something's missing, right?
Yeah. And like, I think that competition, that's what it reminded me of, is because like, well, before high school, I was always on a sports team. And it wasn't until after that I started doing sports where it was like just me on platform or whatever. And so to feel that again, like it's, I don't even know how to describe it, but it feels homey. It feels homey to have that tribe of guys around you and just to have the feel.
The intensity, I think, was a huge thing for me. Like we were yelling and screaming at each other, but it was all positive and it was all fun. And it was all like just making things happen. Yeah. And that's not, as much as hockey's like aggressive, it's not that kind of like, hey, we're just gonna yell at each other and make sure we get the best out of one another for a whole afternoon, right? Like, so that for me was the biggest kind of shock, I think. But awesome, obviously, right? So it's like bring more energy to, now when I go play sports, right, I'm gonna bring a little bit more energy. And it's just one of those things.
I find it also like shaking up the norm, like shaking up just the normal, like, I mean, we've preached before on how routine is great, especially for productivity, but to add something like that in, like we don't have a team that follows us around everywhere throughout life. So to have organized times throughout the week, it's like, hey, you're going to be getting together with the guys or with your team and whatnot. And to really have that shake up, it's almost like recharging.
Yeah, it's good. And I think like you need to break up your routine every once in a while so that when you get back to your routine, you hit it harder. Yeah. Because you go through those ebbs and flows and you're like, you get in those like ruts, is what you can call it, where you're ticking all the boxes, but the intention and the intensity, and those are things that we've talked about before, just aren't there. So I think that was kind of the thing there. And Nick, like our buddy, put it together immediately. Like, and for the guys
like a week. Yeah. He had an idea. He's like, maybe we should do this on Labor Day long weekends. Like, if people go, I'll go. And it was like 10 days.
And for the guys to put it together and show up, and that wasn't in anyone's workout plan. It's not like they planned on working out, lifting as much weight as they could a few times in 3 hours and doing it. And everyone was good. Everybody set records. Like, it was just such a good thing. And I think really eye-opening for a few people. On how important it is and just making the time. So when the opportunity comes up for you to go do something, whether it's hang out with the guys, extra sports, anything like that, really taking the time to think like, hey, how long has it been since I've done this? Yeah. I do need to make this a priority. You need to be around we've done a whole episode on guy time, right? Like we've talked about it and how important it is. So it's like to sit around and then have guy time pop up and not do it, you're doing yourself a disservice. There's very few things, unless it's an important night or there's a plan or whatever. If it's just a normal night, just go. You won't regret it.
So being that this was something so out of the norm for you, did you have any of like the brain noise of like, oh, maybe I shouldn't go, maybe I shouldn't do it because it was out of the norm?
No. And I think that's more to a testament to just what I've been doing over the last like year, just leaning into the discomfort of everything, right? And then working out with Nick once a week's been good, and like getting in that kind of world. But looked at it more of like a test or a competition for myself. I'm like, okay, like I don't do any of this, but I want to go see how I stack up against the guys that do this all the time, or at least have had a position of strength training for a duration of time. Right. So, and like, I was pretty happy with the way I did with obviously the truck pull thing I was like, in my head, I was like, yeah, that's me. but yeah, so we had to make that happen. But otherwise I'd do it again once a month, probably. Like if the guys were like, hey, we're just going to get together and do it, or once a quarter, whatever we decided on. Absolutely.
Yep. It'd be a little chilly in the wintertime.
We'd figure it out.
Yeah. I know if there's a facility around here that'd let us do it inside without breaking some stuff. What would you say was like your biggest takeaway of the whole thing? I think before you answer that, I think for me, it was just like re-solidifying like that importance of the camaraderie, which is why I then talk to you about signing up with volleyball and whatnot. And like, I think that was my biggest takeaway for why it was important.
I think like personally for me, because I've gone through such like a drastic social change where I'm not kind of in the party scene that we've talked about as much, and I don't drink as much. And so I do have I still have a lot of friends that like, that's still kind of the identity that I carry when I'm around with them, which isn't, I don't need to be in that as much. I don't feel pulled to it like I used to. So to hang out with a bunch of other people that I would look at as friends, but not on that same historical level, probably the biggest thing for me is like, no, like they respect me as a coach and I respect myself for what I'm doing and bring that in. Just to be around that kind is different, right? Because that just goes to show the identity stuff that we've talked about. I know it's a little deep for what the question is, but that was it for me. It's like, no, like I'm here as like someone who shows up and performs. It's not, I don't have to show up and be a clown.
The identity stuff, that'll be for another conversation. Those are always good ones. Well, I basically, I don't got much more to hit on this one other than, for me, it was eye-opening. It's like that camaraderie. It's like, I now know that's like probably for forever. I have to have something like that, whether it's like the guy time, looking forward to the guy time, or just the team time, and, you know, shaking things up, getting out of the norm. Even though the strength training stuff is my past, it was nice to get a refresher in it because I haven't done it for so long.
Yeah, like that's just the world, right? And then you get that nice nostalgia in combination with, again, the new environment and the new bodies and those types of things. So it's super cool. I think if we can, in the video, get a couple clips in there somewhere, people will really understand kind of the energy and the intensity that came through it. So yeah, if not, obviously they can check out the pages. So. Yeah.
Absolutely. I'll send it off to our producer. All right, guys. Well, that's it for today. Please like, share, and subscribe on whatever platform you're consuming this content on. Until next time.
Cheers.